This video is brought to you via the Fair Dealings Act, Fair News Tennis Reporting, Education, Criticism. I'm your host, Good Energy. I give you the rundown on tennis coverage every single day, and brace yourself, guys. We're going to have a long discussion here because I'm a bit concerned, and I've said I've been concerned, and nobody's listening to me, and this is where we want to have some really good tennis conversations to discuss what could possibly be going on. Now, I encourage everyone to get involved in the comments. Let's have an adult conversation because I'm concerned, and I've said I've been concerned, but nobody's listening. No one is listening to what I'm saying, and I'm concerned with Iga Swiatek. I'm concerned because as the world's number one, look, I've watched her climb the rankings. I've watched her get to this amazing height of success. And it seems like we're on a downward trend. That's just my personal opinion. And I'm concerned because I enjoy watching Iga play, but I'm concerned at what I'm seeing. I'm really, really concerned. And I've called this out even going back to last summer when Iga struggled on the North American part of the tour. Even back last year, the Sunshine Double, where we saw the injuries and she was sidelined. But let's go back to Cancun, where the knee pain started. We're going to start there. So she had knee pains in Cancun. She looked, I'm going to say, if I had to rate Iga's performance during the United Cup, I would give her, I would say maybe a B minus, because although she was winning, she didn't look great on the defensive side of things and her serving side of things. Now, she started off the United Cup with some pretty subpar metrics on the serving side of things. She did manage to improve them as the tournament went on, but I do not like the fact that with this new serve, she's on the back foot a lot more. That is not where you want to be blasting off your serve. Now, let's take a look at the serve here. Linda Noskova's getting ready to blast a rocket, a cannon of a forehand that has Iga Swiatek just with very little time to react. Now, when we talk about forehands, I've talked about in the past, David's doing an amazing job with Linda, right? Petra Kvitova, for many years, in my opinion, she had a top 5 forehand, right? The trajectory of it, it's just so low towards her opponent's ankles. It's very difficult to return. And if you do return it, she's already coming forward to finish you. And she's got the upper hand in most of these rallies. That's why Petra plays short rallies. This match here, Linda won a lot of points on short rallies. And then when the rallies went past 7 and 9 shots, and I've said this in the past, if you want to beat Iga Swiatek, you have to extend the rallies 7 shots or higher, right? Because if you watch Iga during the longer rallies, it just becomes a ball striking contest where her first few shots, they're literally cannons. She's throwing haymakers at you, and a lot of opponents can't absorb that pace, that power, and Iga ends up winning the point. But the longer the rally goes on, her power diminishes, right? Because we talk about muscle memory. Now, when you're a tennis player and you're used to winning your points inside of 5 shots, it doesn't matter if you can run 20 or 30 miles a day, muscle memory starts to kick in. So her body in these matches, it's used to just not having to work more than 5 or 6 shots during these rallies. When she starts to play opponents that can take her into 7, 9, 10, 15 shot rallies, her body can't handle it. So what happens is you notice Iga, she's holding up her racket more. She's using more of the service clock. And this is where she got into trouble around the 21 season during the win streak, and even in 22, where she was holding up her opponents a lot and they started to complain. She started to get time warnings. It's muscle memory, guys. This is how your body works. Your body is an insane computer that it does what it's used to. and it gets used to those things. So when we're talking about sports and athletics, muscle memory is very, very important. This is why Iga struggles with opponents that can take her deep into rallies, because it's muscle memory. It's not like she's not an amazing athlete. It's just her body's not used to it. So what happens is when she's extended into these long rallies, the power is not really there because it's stamina related. So I say it all the time. When you win a match, particularly last match against Danielle Collins that you should have lost, you're probably going to lose the next match. And a lot of times, it's not just tennis, it's in every sport. You lose. And a lot of that, in this particular case, is muscle memory. I think she's fatigued. I think she's tired. A long match like that, you're going to feel it the next day. Now, Iga would say in the post-match interview that she does feel she was fine. You know, there wasn't any issue, but she did acknowledge, she did contradict herself and say she noticed she wasn't as explosive on some points. Of course she wasn't as explosive. Muscle memory during the long rallies. Plus, let's talk about the knee band. Anyone that's ever competed, you know, you don't wear a knee band if there's nothing wrong with your knee. That just doesn't happen, right? Take a look at the players, and I've talked about this in the past, even before Iga was wearing this E-band, in particular these players, Tamara Zidensek, Victoria Golubic, Ludmila. They all wear a knee band. If you really, and look, I watch enough tennis to know these players. I study them. They're moving on the knee. You can tell there's pain there. The way they walk, the way they return shots in certain defensive positions, you can tell the knee has inflammation in it. You can tell after the matches they're icing their knee. Now, what concerns me with Iga is she's 22 years old. You don't want to be wearing knee bands at 22 years old. And I've said this in the past, coming from junior, she had a serious foot injury. And she worked really, really hard to get back. She thought her tennis career was over. She worked really, really hard to get back to an elite level. And Iga is an elite player, even injured with a knee band or just not 100%. Iga's still better than 95% of the people on tour. So let's just acknowledge that. She's a phenomenal player. I love covering her matches, but this is fair criticism. This is truth. And a lot of people don't want to accept the truth. But I'm speaking from an athlete and someone that watches these players. I'm just giving you guys the real spill here. This is true that I'm talking about. It's truth. Iga Swiatek, guys, at 22, having a band on her knee concerns me, right? So she worked really, really hard to come back from the foot injury in the juniors. She thought her tennis career was over. What happens is, if you've ever had a major injury in sports, that period of recovery, a lot of people call it physical therapy, where you're training your body to get back to that point it was. What happens is you'll surpass that point. You'll get a lot stronger because you're overexerting your body. You're building muscle. You're, healing these tissues. Your body's going to get a lot stronger. So let's say if you were athletically, this is just a comparison to give you guys an example. So let's say before the injury, you would rate your explosiveness a B+. After physical therapy, you'll normally surpass that as long as your body healed 100%, because you're training rigorously. You're training to a level that you never trained before. So your body's going to possibly be an A+, right? But the problem is there's a curve. You have to maintain that type of intensity and training to maintain that A+ level. And a lot of people can't do that. That's a lot of stress on your joints. It's a lot of stress on your body. And what happens is new injuries start to form. This is what has always concerned me with Iga Swiatek and her footwork. So before her matches, you see her do that amazing shuffle. That takes a lot of training off the court to develop foot speed like that. If you're not naturally athletically fast and explosive like that, it takes a lot of training to maintain that versus someone that's naturally athletic. Maybe minimal training here. I mean, of course, we're talking, and I don't want to diminish the word minimal, but it's a lot easier to maintain it. Just put it that way. What I'm starting to notice is before her matches, she's not doing the shuffle. Then I see the knee band. Then I'm starting to notice that In this match in particular, the backhand, there was no lift on the knee. The backhand she was returning was more of a defensive shot. It wasn't a weapon. So now we have a match where Linda and Iga, they're going head to head on the forehand side. It's a forehand match. And we all know with David training Linda with that amazing forehand, Linda's going to win this match. If this becomes a forehand match, I'm going to put my money on Linda. And that's exactly what happened here. I'm concerned because it appears the knee is giving her issues. She's not admitting it, right? She's saying that she's fine. She's just kidding. But I see something different. I see no lift on the backhand. I see no lift on the serve. There's something wrong with this knee. And even still hindered, she's better than most players because Iga's that good. But what's going to happen here, if this is my personal opinion, I think Iga's going to shut it down at some point this season. That's just my personal opinion. I said it last year about Rybakina. I said Rybakina's going to have to shut it down. Look at her performance with aces last year. Amazing, right? I said there's no way she can maintain that type of intensity for a full season. Her shoulder is going to, it's going to malfunction. And sure enough, it did. Rybakina had to shut it down. I'm telling you here, this is an exclusive. At some point this season, Iga's going to have to shut it down. The inflammation in the knee, she's not admitting it. And look, you don't want to admit it anyway. You want to keep this stuff in-house. But they know something in-house. There's something wrong with the knee. You don't wear a knee band if your knee is okay. You don't do that. Any athlete knows this. And I'm concerned. I think at some point she's going to shut it down on the schedule. I think so. Iga talked about in the past coming into, in particular last year, she had a lot of stress on her at maintaining the number one spot. I think there's going to be stress on her once she starts. And I've already predicted this. If you really follow the channel, I said, I think this is going to be out of the last 2 seasons. She's going to have more losses this season than the last 2 seasons for sure. Now, the 21 season, Iga was a human being, right? She was losing matches. She wasn't really dominating. But after the 21 season at the WTA finals, I broke down her game. I said, look, her serve is really bad. She's got to work on her serve. She's not a threat with that serve. Sure enough, something happened. She came into the 22 season. The serve placement was amazing. She worked hard on her serve. But she really worked on her athletic ability because once Ashley Barty retired in March, Iga she took over the tour. She really did. And a lot of that was the hard work she put in. But then I talk about, again, as I referenced earlier to this video, to maintain an athletic level like that. Look, when you reach number one, you start breaking these records and winning these slams. The motivation's there. It's easier to do that. But once you're number one, the toughest thing to do is remain there because now you have other players on tour. They're training very hard. They're trying to pass you. And then now you have to train harder to stay above their level. Injuries are they're going to start happening. And this is what concerns me about Iga. She's 22 years old and she's wearing a knee band. The longevity, in my opinion, and I've said this before, people think that I'm hating, but it's fair criticism. This is what I do, guys. I have to analyze the match and give you fair criticism from my perspective of being an athlete. I don't see the longevity there. And a lot of Polish fans got upset when I told them. I said, look, I'm telling you what's going to happen here. You're talking about someone that, in terms of speed, I could have won gold medals for this country. That's how fast I am. Okay, so when I'm telling you my perspective, don't think it's from a mediocre athletic perspective. I'm telling you as someone that has always been explosive. To maintain this type of level, it's very difficult. And I'm concerned at 22 years old that the longevity is not necessarily going to be there. When Iga gets, let's say, 30 years old, that footwork's not going to be there. So automatically the backhand is probably going to be reduced a lot. She's going to have to improve some things. You know, the forehand might be overused a bit. And simple, it's going to be easier to game plan for Iga as she ages on tour. While some of the other players on tour that have that natural raw athletic ability that's adding on strength, That to me, it's a sign of more of a longevity type of career because it's more natural, right? It's going to take less to maintain it. And you're already ahead of players just walking onto the court with your natural athletic ability. Whereas someone that's training and working hard in the gym to get better, that's very tough to maintain, and you start to notice the curve and the decline once injuries happen because the body's only made to take so much. The body's going to break down, and I've said in the past, I personally feel once Iga starts to decline rapidly, I think she's going to walk away from the game. And the reason why I feel that is because of the pressure. There's a lot of pressure on Iga Swiatek. There's a lot of pressure being the number one, and with all these records, she did it so fast out of nowhere. She came out of nowhere and did this win streak. That's insane. And I felt that puts a lot of pressure on her. And I personally feel that once she starts to decline, I don't think she's going to be, talking in these interviews about, they're asking some tough questions in these interviews. I don't think she's going to be able to handle it. And I could see her walking away early. That's my personal opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But I really feel that. And we're like 29, 30, 31. I think that's it. I think she'll walk away. She's had an amazing run the last couple of years, but I think this is a year where she's going to lose the most matches she's lost the last couple of years, and I can see her shutting it down at some point this season. You don't wear a knee band on your knee if there's not something wrong with your knee. And inflammation at a 22 years of age, that concerns me. It really concerns me. But nonetheless, guys, tennis in a minute. What do you guys think? This is a long video. Let's have a good conversation. Keep it respectful, guys. We're not going to tolerate people that can't articulate their point without disrespecting others' opinions. Comment below. Let's have a good conversation. Iga Swiatek, the world's number one, eliminated. She will not win the Australian Open this year. We'll be right back.